flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Motion to approve the minutes of July 11th, 2019 Manistee Township Board meeting.
I'll make that motion.
There's support.
I'll support it.
It's been moved, supported that the minutes from the July 11th, 2019 Manistee Township Board meeting be accepted, placed on file. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Carried. We've received a copy of the treasurer's report. Any comments?
Finally, a good month.
Yeah,
Came out ahead.
Yeah.
collecting taxes and getting cash and fees.
Being none, please place them on file. There is no planning commission meeting minutes. There was no zoning board of appeal. Anyone to bring anything before the board at this time? Mr. Commissioners, nice to see you again. Hope all's well.
And I'm on Franks and Beans for the rest of the month because we paid our taxes.
Thank you.
Well, if you look at those real close,
Yeah.
not this side of the table that gets.
Oh, yeah. All right, we'll give you a quick recap. Hillary Boyd is the new Assistant Veterans Counselor. She was just appointed at the last board meeting. We are under contract now with Onekama Township and East Lake Village for administrating their zoning. And there's more to come in regard to that. Healthcare costs for the next year are down 6.63%, which is kind of unusual, but we do a lot of self-insurance and that helps us out. And we had a good year, so that's why that's done. We had an annual report from Kevin Hughes, District 10 Health Department. And we acted on our point of sale recommendations for changes, which was someone inherits it or a point of or a land contract. It is not going to be grandfathered, but if you have it inspected, it'll go from 2 years to 3 years from a sales point. If you have it out for sale, nothing's happening with it. After 2 years, you'd have to have it inspected again to look at it moving after 3 years. And nothing is happening on any of it at the moment because Kalkaska, to the best of my knowledge, has not acted on it. All 10 counties have to vote in the affirmative to make any changes. Kalkaska is looking to opt out. There's been a lot of public outcry in Kalkaska against that. And I have talked to a couple of their board members and also their drain commissioner, and they're on opposite sides of the fence on the issues. To be continued, I guess is probably the best way to look at that.
Kalkaska, the only county in the 10 counties that's in question.
Kalkaska, the reason the whole plan got opened up, John, was because Kalkaska wanted to get out. And in my conversations with them, I come up with a thought process of the primary concern has to do with proximity to water and elevation. So there ought to be a formula that can be put in place to adjust that for those reasons. So if you're living on a lake and if you got, let's say Portage Lake by Andy's Point is different than if I'm on East Lake and I'm 500 feet from, yeah, because I'm 75 feet above. We need to look at things a little more sophisticated than just blanket policies. But again, that kind of came out of that conversation, and kind of one of those things that crosses your mind in the process, having some discussion on. But again, everything's on hold to the best of my knowledge. We don't have anything on the agenda as of yet, but the agenda is not set, and the meeting this month is on the 4th Tuesday. Superintendent Stoneman from Manistee Public came before us and kind of gave us a little bit of a rollout of what they're looking at on 3 different possible proposals for millage. And let's see here. As everybody saw in the paper, sheriff department. We lost our K-9 Benno, and he was, I want to say, barely 2 years. And that's a little hard. That hits the department more than you would anticipate at times, but it's a very much a point of concern. Deputy Gillespie is going to stay as the K-9 officer, and to prevent such things happening in the future, somebody has come forward to put down an invisible fence to keep the next one within those boundaries of the property, because it just was kind of a, he lives on a gravel road out in Brethren, and it was kind of like a, wow, you know, something happened, everybody feels really bad about it. But this invisible fence hopefully will eliminate such things from happening again. If you've been to the courthouse and you see we've got the radar in the front, I'm telling you, we've had that for over 20 years and never utilized it. I mentioned it to the administrator, either put it in service or get rid of it.
Radar.
Walk through,
Oh, okay.
metal detector,
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
X-ray, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
And it's amazing the amount of knives, they've had guns. You know, we're in an area where pocket knives are commonplace. That's not anything to be frightened about, but 6-inch knives and such, there's been a lot of stuff that you just kind of go, wow. At any rate, FEMA's got a big meeting coming up at the EOC at the Sheriff's Department. I believe it's August 13th. I've called the supervisor on that to relay to him what my understanding is. If you are in a floodplain and you have a mortgage, it sounds like you're going to have flood insurance, period, end of story. And you need to have a floodplain administrator.
Who does?
Whoever.
We do?
If you participate in the program.
I don't think there's gonna be a choice. From what Carson's telling me, it doesn't sound like you can opt in, opt out. If you are a private property owner, inside that floodplain, and there's no mortgage, you can opt out. Is how it's been explained to me. But if you have a mortgage, the lending institutions are gonna demand it from what we're being told.
Who's got to administer that?
Township?
County.
No.
No, county.
No. John. We did hire a new economic development officer, and his name is Mark Miller. The press release was out yesterday, and Mark has got an interesting background. He's a former director of the DNR in Illinois. He worked in that position for a few years, and then there was a regime change at the governor's office, and then he was picked up by the Schneiders. So he worked under Democrat administration in Illinois, worked under Republican one in Michigan. I can tell you, I had dealings with him with Andy's Point, with property up there that was deeded over to the township and had a deed restriction on it. And when, at the point in time when Portage Point Inn was looking to put a building on that property, that deed restriction needed to be removed. And I was working with Mark in the process of doing that, and extremely responsive, had a great interview, very qualified guy, and we expect to have him on board. I think the date is September 3rd. So that's that. I mentioned prior to the meeting, AGS is going to be working with Onekama Township for the same thing you guys started with, so that's, I think, is a good step. The piers up in Onekama at the channel, both sides are supposed to be completed in mid-September now, and the delay is because of weather. We've got a meeting coming up on ambulance service for those that are involved in emergency services, because the concern of the ambulances that Munson has, or I should say North Flight, not Munson, but North Flight is part of Munson, to my knowledge, is they've been doing a lot of transfers.
Transporting.
Yeah, and at times the city's been having to go way out into the county, and it's been leaving them open. So at any rate, there is a meeting coming up on that in a week or two here. And what else do I have? Yes, I do have a date.
We had the same thing when we had West Shore ambulance.
Not as bad.
It's escalated quite a bit from what I understand. I know the city's got major heartburn with what's been going on. But I can tell you the date, I wanna say,
It's been increasing dramatically, so it's been put a strain on even Norman Township's rate.
the 14th, yeah, 2 o'clock.
And as time goes on, it'll probably get worse with transfers simply because downsizing this.
Right. And haul them to Traverse City.
Right.
Or Grand Rapids,
Or
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 Cadillac.
transfers is where the money's at. So they deplete all our rigs so they can make those transfers. Because in mutual aid, the city will go anywhere, and in Norman, I think we had that car, our convertible rollover.
Well, yeah, but that's assuming, the city, I don't know, and I'm not gonna speak on their behalf, but they're looking at not going in.
They have refused a couple times.
Yes. If they can backfill, they will go. If they cannot backfill, they probably won't.
Does a patient have a choice as to go to Traverse or Ludington to Spectrum?
I have no idea.
If you're
Hopefully
going,
we won't find out.
if you're coherent, you can, but it's not likely if you're here, you're gonna go to Ludington.
Pardon?
Probably not, because you're talking two different.
I would assume you'd be,
processes.
yeah.
And Munson's would be the closest, starting with here, as well as Cadillac, as opposed to Spectrum and Ludington. So I'm guessing probably not.
That's it for
Needs to
me.
go before the emergency arises.
It's a point of concern.
It is, it definitely is.
That's it for me. So
Does
Lions,
Manistee Township have floodplain? Bar Lake, is that floodplain area?
Yes, some of it.
maybe some.
Along the river here is.
We have maps here, right?
I have the maps, the current maps, and I have the preliminary new maps.
I probably got it in my little black book how many people, but there is less than 100.
It's like,
Way less than 100 that have flood insurance in the whole county.
yeah, there's like 6 in the township, I think.
And that's probably on the,
River, yeah. Most of the people, when their mortgage company asks them to get flood insurance, they get a hold of FEMA and get themselves removed from the map. They get a survey and they're above the floodplain elevation, so what do they call that map, something? You just said it.
yeah. That's it for me. Anybody else? Anybody else?
Enjoy the game. What do you think?
Yeah.
That could take a while.
I had something on the tip of my tongue.
See you later.
Oh, yeah.
We'll have a TV here for you next month. Got anything going on in your office?
Quite a bit. It was busy in July. We had 6 land use permits, 17 construction permits. 6 of them were for buildings, 11 for trades. And we're open in the construction office for 4 days a week. And it's Karen and I are busy. Mostly Karen on construction. As far as the planning meeting that was held last night, Filer Township's beginning their new master plan process. I provided updates to the planning commission on short-term rentals, where that stands as far as state law goes. And the Right to Farm Act, they've removed zoning as a criteria for locating a farm, a commercial farm, as a criteria for siting a farm on new farms. They're going to use residential density in the area of where the farm would like to be as the criteria rather than zoning district. They revised the right to farm rules annually. This was the latest. Rob Carson was in to give the board kind of current status, current land use, current population data and stuff to start our master plan process.
To start it?
Well, that, first you say how you are today, and then you take community surveys, basically, and then you plan for the future based on that input.
That's up, they're working on it.
They've been working, but yeah, there's a lot of data to pull together. And we're using the most recent, or they are, 2017 data rather than 2010 census, which is Oak Grove Development, they were in a couple of weeks ago, and they're wanting to have a meeting of the zoning board of appeals and ask for variance. So that'll probably happen to September meeting. If they come in and give us a check so we can call the meeting. And the Little River Band of Ottawa Indians, we talked about their development. They've been talking about that for years. Now they have a concept and a location. So we talked about how we can help them. This is fee simple land, so they're paying property tax. It's not interest. It's on the corner of 22 and
Or on the corner,
30. Right, across 22 from the gas station.
In the wedge.
In that wedge.
Right.
110 acres.
56.
Something like that. Oh yeah, all together, that's right, 2 parcels. That's enough for me. Any questions?
Go to the game too?
No.
Thanks, Guy. Chuck?
Well, July was a pretty busy month for fire-related calls. We had 10 for fire-related. Medical was 7. Union station trainings and other activities was 6. Total activities was 23. The officers had about 52 hours for the month. The complaint hours were 68 total. And I'll skip over the apparatus because that's what we have up here. The station, everything is going well at the station. We still had a little small hole in the front. I'm not sure if you heard anything back from the road commission on that.
I did, but they've been busy with,
All the flood stuff, yeah. And then we do finally have the paint, the finished train to the painting facility, so hopefully next couple of weeks we'll finish putting the first coat on it ourselves. We did get the suspenders in from Jim Henderson, and we got our AED bands in for the AEDs. We did go in with the city on a F500 order this foam as a bulk order. That's been ordered. We ordered 5 pails, so as we get that more information when that's coming, I don't know yet. So.
is that PFE, whatever?
PFAS, that's
No, it's not that. We don't.
Regulatory.
We haven't had the triple F foam in years. We got rid of that years ago. We went to the F500 probably 7, 8 years ago. And in the recent 6 to 8 months, we've used 3 or 4 pails of it for car fires and stuff like that. So. We do have a possibility of a new recruit. We were up at the casino doing some training, and one of the security folks up there was pretty interested. I wasn't available last Monday to meet with him. At our 30th anniversary, so that was pretty special. So, we'll talk to him next Monday and see where he's at. We got to get him before he works. We do have some of the best folks around, so we'd like to keep some good people. Training, we've been continued with EMS report runs, how to keep up on those. Pump operations on 132, did driver's training, did gas meter training at the old Health Connection building, which is building D now, as part of the hospital complex. We did a big walk through that one. And we're long as also with the other buildings that are there. We're scheduling a walk through the new building that's open now, where we can run with them. And they have a Knox box, that we're gonna put some cards in, so we can swipe, even though it's security, we'll be able to get into that Knox box where the security guard can't go, we can go in there if it's where we have to wear SCPs. We also did some, we ended up helping with just the other day with the county fair stuff. That's going on this entire month, so we'll be helping out what we can in different places. There's like 5 or 6 events in San Diego, which one it is, that much every year. Oh,
Track-
truck
the
show.
The truck show.
Truck show, track and roll.
Kids day.
We're working on some SOPs from when the risk management folks were here. We did the carbon monoxide detector one, and we're really close on the hose testing one that he was wanting us to have to put in our stuff. So we're right there with that one. And then for as far as apparatus, we had the door repaired on 135. It wasn't releasing from the inside yet, but we should show it to get out just to repair the spring system. And then 131 replacement. This is the final drawing. You see here on the left, this is Q. We started with an A drawing, and we went all the way through to Q. And this was, we started just over a year ago, this process. We looked at 3 different companies. We narrowed it down to Spencer, who was here tonight talking to a couple of the folks if they had any questions. So if you have any questions on it, it's myself, Denny, Jim Mowry, and Jim Edmondson were part of the truck committee initially. We went and looked at 2 different places that were in the state of Michigan. And then the last time, Steve came out from Spencer, a couple of the other firefighters came in, looked at the drawing, make sure, looked at the specs that we had to make sure we weren't missing anything, because more eyes are better than 4. It's dialed in now, everything is right where it needs to be. So. If there's questions on it.
Ask those guys, don't ask me.
So there's,
Well, they critiqued it right down to.
I don't have the spec sheet in with me, but it was like 120 pages that you go through, and we all went through and found different things, like a compass. Does it come with a compass because you want to go in direction which way you're going? Really not, you get kind of turned around. Just little things like that, you'd be amazed at all the different things that you start looking at these trucks.
That you can add or not.
Not add, or yeah, there's stuff we didn't add by far, there's stuff that we didn't need, so we didn't add.
Well, Jim and Chuck and the firefighters put a lot of time into this thing. It just little stuff, but it's
Like the latest.
well, Chuck didn't get the praise for being the engineer that designed it. Was it the rear dump, the rear intake or discharge?
The discharge.
Okay.
The rear, oh, well, the rear intake on the truck? Yeah. So,
He actually designed it for them, but
no, actually, Bear Lake had an issue with theirs. I was talking to Sean, chief up there. It's interesting, Spencer called them like the next day. And they shouldn't be having an issue because their truck's only 3 or 4 years old, so they figured out what it was and they're gonna make it right. So, that's until we get credit for that. From Bear Lake, I guess, but, like, if you can see the cones on the bottom right corner there, one of the things that some of the firefighters that we missed was a place to store the cones. Normally they have them in a compartment, we like to take up compartment space. We extended the back bumper another 10 inches and put the 18-inch cones on the back, just simple things like that.
I see
So the current truck is 1,250 gallons per minute pump, and it holds 1,000 gallons of water. This truck will hold 1,250 gallons of water, it's a 1,500 gallon per minute pump. Those are the big features.
Well, in less than a minute, you'll empty.
You
could.
Besides it.
You could, but you usually never pump that much water at a time. So, and then you have the other tankers that come out back for the mutual aid for the tankers. It has a front suction and a rear suction. It's a lot different than the current truck we have. The current truck we have is unique. It's unique. There was only about 50 of them made. It has a rear suction, so we were used to working off the back. And when you set up the porta tank, it works really good because you can keep one line of traffic still open if you need to. So that's, the goal with this one is to keep it very similar to the older truck.
But they have the option.
We have the option on the front and on the front now too, so what you can do is, if you put it on the front, there'll be a pre-connect section on the front, so one person can grab it, pick it up, drop it in the port tank, and you don't have to try to connect it, and so you save all kinds of time doing that. You don't have to get up there and climb and put it off there, so. Time setting up is cut way down. A lot of departments are doing that now around the country just because of less manpower and personnel hours. A lot of all the equipment on the old truck, minus the ladder, we'll keep the ladders, but this truck will come with new ladders because those ladders are just as old as the truck. But like the deck mount on the other truck, that's got a picture of one, we're not buying a new one, we'll take it off the old one. All the hose, and some of the newer fittings that we got through Rick and Sharon over the past 6, 7, 8 years will go onto this truck, so. They're pretty pricey though, unfortunately. And another unique thing about this truck, Bear Lake it's a poly body, so the body itself for the fire rescue and all the back portion of the apparatus is going to be poly. The tank's been poly for years, so it won't rust. We don't have any rust issues. Right now we're starting to get some rust erosion. And then the frame on this one is a double frame, which is galvanized dipped, so
Hold it down well.
it lasts 40, 50 years, the frame, so we shouldn't have any problem with the frame. This one's getting pretty thin.
The question being is what we do with this one, but that's the matter that we can work out.
Yeah, there's,
How we do it.
yeah, we'll figure that one out. There's 2 options.
Anything else? Any questions?
And if you have questions afterwards, we can talk, because there's a lot to it, to explain.
Thanks, Chuck, Sam. Can we hear thanks to the people across the street, if you would, please?
For sure.
No significant changes with the liquor inspections. Business that we need to attend to. Mr. Buckner was here earlier this evening and spoke with Chuck and myself and Jim over at the fire station, and he came over here and he spoke with Connie and Diane on financial matters here, so Mr. Buckner went back home. Pickleball court update. If you see a bunch of people standing around the fence up there with their rackets in their hand, Monday they're gonna start playing, so it's all done. All done.
So are you gonna do a big write-up in the paper with photographers tomorrow?
Uh,
Cut the ribbon?
Yeah.
Tournament.
Yeah. No, they wanna do, the pickleball group wants to do something. We have to, it's an obligation under the Minger family grant that we got, that we have to publicize the use of the money, so we'll do that. I have nothing else. Continuing issues at Bar Lake, but that's high water, that's everywhere, so. Anything else? Well, Jeff wasn't here, we would have gone. You received your detailed bills that we received.
Bill schedule?
Any questions?
I'll make a motion to pay the bills, receive bills and the incoming bills for the month of August.
Is there a second?
I second that.
We moved, supported that we pay the bills as provided from July 1st to July 31st, as well as those coming in. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. None opposed? Carried. Thank you. Manistee County MTA will meet Wednesday, August 28th, here at the Township Hall. That's at 7 p.m. Zoning Board of Appeals, and it's anticipated there might be one, will be September 3rd, here at the Town Hall. Planning Commission will meet here Wednesday, September 4th, here at the Hall. And the next regular meeting of the Manistee Township Board will be Thursday, September 12th already, here at 7 p.m. Any other comment? Motion's in order.
Make motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Been moved, supported, to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Thank you very much.
Play for my minutes.
Yeah.
It's 6:58.
Yeah, it's
That's part time.
Yeah, that's wrong, it's part time.